today.
Today.
Let's talk about today.
If you're at a national state level, you have to run non-sales, wholesale.
Is 9,000.
The only mistake I made, I didn't put her in the registration booth with it.
Just this ever-evolving story.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? Happy Monday, April 14th, and welcome to Let's Grow Pullng. Big lineup, big show tonight. We're super excited about it. It's a West Texas takeover. We're hanging out with the All-Stars from the Lone Star State. We're going to kick things off with longtime pullers of the well-known, well-renowned Red Horse. We're going to be talking with Stan and Steve Blagrave. They're going to tell us about their exciting experience to go pulling in Mata in the Netherlands overseas. Then we're going to keep it out there in the cotton country where we're going to be hanging out with Cameron Neaves, your points champion with the Outlaws and the Cotton Candy Tractor. He's going to tell us about the Pullers Championship and everything he's got to do to get ready for that. And then stay tuned at 8:30. We're going to go pulling through the past, where current owner of the truck Lady Butterfly, Gene Dunn, is going to come on the show and tell us about the history of that truck. So let's get things rolling. Stan, Steve, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Love the backdrop. We've got the hood off and everything right there. Is the Red Horse, is it ready to go for 2025 Pullin?
We kind of think so. We had a little motor damage after we got home from Louisville and had the head off and rolled bearings in it and a couple of pistons and a new turbo. And we hope it will make 3 passes in the Netherlands.
So that's got to be, quite an honor. We talked to Hans Boxler Jr. last year at the National Farm Machinery Show in 2024, and he, went in depth about his experience pulling overseas. And he says it's quite an experience. He was just humbled to be able to do it. I think the big question everybody wants to know is, how does a puller come to have an opportunity like that? I mean, is this an invitational thing? Is it an application? Tell us the story about how you guys found yourself putting this awesome tractor on a boat and headed across the ocean.
Well, Hans Boxler actually we talked to him at Bowling Green, and later on after that, he contacted us and said that some guys over there was interested in visiting with us, seeing if we'd be interested in going. And so me and Steve was going to talk about it a little bit. And of course, we asked the family, and the family, they didn't hesitate at all. They said, "Yeah, you bet, we're in." So we called them up and said we was interested, and then it just kind of went from there. But Hans was the one that kind of contacted us, asking us if we'd be interested in going.
Now, is he going to kind of be a part of that? When I talked to him this year, he said, he really couldn't wait to get back. Is he going to hop over there and just kind of watch, or is he going to be kind of maybe traveling with you guys? What's his role in all this?
He's going to be, he said, he said that that's really a big experience over there. He said that he didn't have any time to leave his pit area where he was at. There were so many people around there. He didn't have time to watch the show, look around the pits or anything. And so he said he's going back this year, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to catch up on what he didn't get to do over there last year. So he's pretty excited about going back over there and just kind of hanging out. And he said he'd be available if we needed any help too. So
how much have you guys, how much did you know about this pull ahead of time? Is this something you've kind of been dreaming of for a long time? Have you watched a lot of video on it? What's this pull mean to, Stan and Steve, and you both can tell us individually what this pull means to, if you'd like.
Well, I didn't really know much about the Made pull. The one that was the wintertime pull, it was it in Rotterdam?
Yeah, I believe so.
They had a pull in the winter, And we've known several people that's went out to that pull. Wayne Purser went out there, Adam Bauer went out there, and we knew that you had to have your tractor on the, in the container. You could make it to Louisville, but it was really tight if you were going to go to Louisville and still go to that pull. So I knew a little bit about that indoor pull. I didn't really know, I don't think Stan did either, a whole lot about Made, but then, I saw some of the posts that Hans had last year, and how big it was and how big of an event it was. And then, talking to Hans at the farm show, we learned a lot more about it. And then we met a lot of people from out that way while we were at Louisville. And it's a big deal. I mean, it really is. After watching the videos and talking to guys, and we're really excited about it. It's going to be fun.
European tractor pulling is, in a lot of ways it's the same, but in so many ways, based on what people have told me in the videos that are out there, very different. It's a very festive, kind of entertainment, almost more like a Monster Jam atmosphere. They've got their music playing, and there's a big hype man and everything.
Lots of smoke, looks like,
Yeah, they make it a big show. And Hans was kind of saying, I can understand why he wants to go back over there and kind of view it from a fan's perspective. Now, you guys, I'm sure you're locked in. You're wanting to go over there and show them what you guys are made of. Is there any last minute, fine tuning you have to do, or are you just treating this like you would any other season and the old red horse, she's buttoned up and ready to go at this point?
You can't, you got to treat it like it's just a normal deal, like you're going to just one of the shows we go to in the summertime. We don't want to go over there and, tear it up first night or anything. Our main scare is we got to make 3 passes with the thing when it gets over there. And, we just want to go over and experience what, all the hype that they're all talking about.
So, absolutely. You're going over there. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's an honor. But if you guys walked away with a 3rd place, a 2nd place, a 1st place, you probably wouldn't be too sad about that either. I mean, I'm sure, the tractor is going to be running as good as ever. One thing that I really like about your tractor, and you guys released a video that just shows this clear as day. You guys are very loyal, I would say, to the 4 turbocharger setup. A lot of people have kind of committed and doubled down on the 3 charger setup. 4 chargers, is that your guys' just style and bread and butter? Is that something you're just happy with, or is that something the tractor just prefers?
4 turbos is what we had success with. And, I guess since the early 2000s is when we, started running the 4 turbo, which most everybody was 4 turbos then. And we've just kept tweaking that and working with that. And yeah, I would say we're definitely committed to the 4 turbo program. And, when they first started making the 3 charger system run, it was hard on that bottom charger, and they were taking it out a lot. And, we always felt like, those 2 on the bottom kind of split the load, where you wasn't quite as hard on one big one on the bottom. And, some people say that middle one's just kind of riding along. I think it's doing a little bit of a part there. And they've come a long ways with the 3 charger setup in the last 5 years. So we're just going to keep tweaking this and try to make it work and get better with it. It's still hard on parts.
I've never seen a video get shared. We were talking about the pulling community beforehand, about how big and how small it is at the same time. And, there's just, once you get in that pulling community, you see a lot of the same people and faces. And when you guys posted the video with the hood off and said you were prepared for Mata, it was like the only thing on my feed, because every single friend had shared it, because it was such a neat video. It gives such a good, look at that charger system. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And then after we watch it, you guys can even kind of break down to the fans just the basics of, how Red Horse breathes and lives and what it's going to be doing over there in the Netherlands. So, Jason, if you want to play that video of theirs with the hood off, it's something really fun to watch.
Fans, this is Mata. Like, this is their hype video that's on their Facebook page right now. So this place is legit. And like Stan or Steve said, I don't remember which one, but the fireworks and all the smoke and stuff like that. And then real quick, got Guys, you're not actually competing. You're just making exhibition passes, right? Is that the deal? Because they don't have a or you're going to run against the Alki tractors.
No, as far as we know, is what we understand will be exhibition passes. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
That's what I thought.
And Hans told us that those screens on the far end and they're 9 stories tall.
That's what you can see in this video right there.
So it's a triple track too.
Yes.
We're going back to like the old days of Toma. I mean, this is like very few places will you encounter 3, pulling surfaces running simultaneously.
And, they were showing them covering the track there a minute ago. Hans was saying that they could cover and uncover that track in a real short period of time.
Yeah, it looked like they had rollers, almost like on a roller system. So.
Yeah. It seems like they got that figured out.
This guy that we're talking to over there about going to, his name is Eric. And this is actually in his field where this track is set up. In some of them videos, he has a dairy farm, and you can see his barns and stuff in the background. But this is on his farm. Is where this is located.
Wow, this is so cool, Mike. We're gonna have to get over there.
It's like private property. So I actually, I Google Earthed Mata Netherlands, and I was like, well, I'm going to find the pulling track, and this explained you can't. I mean, it's on a guy's dairy farm, so this is all. It's like Woodstock. It's like purpose built every year.
You can see it there on that shot.
Yeah, this is cool. I'll pause this and I'll play your video. I didn't mean to hijack.
No, you're fine. This is a lot of fun. This is money.
So here is the video you're talking about. It's on the Blagrave. It's Blagrave's pulling team, right? Your Facebook page, guys?
Yes.
Pretty sure it is. Here is right here.
Whoever runs your social media account, whoever ran the camera, Jason, you've kind of been looking for people with full pull and outlawed live and everything. Like that person has such a good nose for like explaining the story and showing the fans what they want. So just tell the fans, and it's sitting right behind you, what makes Red Horse breathe? What's under the hood of that thing? What's at the heart of it?
It's well, as far as the turbochargers go, 4 turbos, 2 atmospheric, 1 in the middle, 1 in the bottom. And, we've done a lot of work the past summer kind of opening up the exhaust side of the thing. Seemed like, that's been where we've made the most advances in the past couple of years, just trying to open that exhaust side up, keep it from being so constipated, as we call it. Can't get we can get the air packed in, but we can't get it out. So we keep opening up the exhaust side of it, to kind of let the thing breathe better. And it seems like the more you let it breathe, the motor just kind of relaxes. You can kind of tell that it breathes better.
So I want to take a look at it in action, and a place where you guys had a really smooth A to B pass. I mean, just way out the back door, and pulling in your home state. We've actually got a video of Whitewright from 2024, which I'm sure you've heard the news that we are going back, that Whitewright is going to be pulling one more year here in 2025. So let's take a look at the run from Whitewright and just see what this thing can actually do when it's wired and fired. So my first question is, who was driving at White Ride, or do you guys take turns every other night?
Yeah, we take turns. I believe at White Ride, I may have drove both nights this time. But yeah, normally well, actually the way we do it is if we go to Chapel Hill, Stan will drive both nights because, you kind of get your feet wet Friday night and then you kind of got a better feel for the track Saturday night. So I think it's better if the same driver drives both nights on the same track. So we usually just, whatever event we're at, one of us will drive an event and then the next event we'll switch out.
So if you look back at that pass at White Ride, I want you guys to kind of tell me what a perfect pass is, in your mind. If you look at that one, is that just bread and butter, or, walk me through, what you're looking for every time you go down the track?
I think that may have been, if I remember, that may have been Friday. And I think we dropped together. That track was good at White Ride. It was really good this year. I mean, it was the best you could ask for. And I think Saturday night we dropped a gear, and I don't know I wasn't a little happier with the second night. I'm not sure which night that was, but it didn't seem like it pulled its gear there towards the end as well as it should have. But I mean, it was, we drove off the track, so that's always a good pass if you can do that.
We also had a new set of Pro Puller whole shot tires on that we was running, and we was real happy with the way they performed, and I think they helped it make that pass as well.
Jason, I saw that you removed yourself from the stage because I thought you were afraid that I was going to ask you about, your take at White Ride. And I thought, you were just like, okay, before Mike even has a chance, like, I'm just going to go ahead and go back here because White Ride was not as kind to you as it was to your diesel superstock counterparts over here.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to pull against Blagraves the first time in my whole life, and I was going to drive my tractor for the first time, and I realized that I'm not quite ready yet. Cameron Neaves, I bought a starter from him, and Stan and Steve, it was so freaking hot, you guys, and they were laying under my tractor. And what kind of starter was that? A mag starter that I had on there? We don't have that anymore, Stan and Steve, but it's like what the minis and the two-wheelers have. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
So that was allowed. My Singer fixed that. We have a regular, a normal person starter now. My Singer.
Well, me and Steve have been sitting on a pulling tractor since the 70s, so we got a few years on you there, I guess.
No, it was fun.
That's a perfect segue. There's so much that I want to do in this interview. I wish I'd have booked you guys for 2 hours, but you talk about you've been pulling since the 1970s, and I always do a segment later in the show called Pulling Through the Past, but I just couldn't bring you guys on the show and not show this to the fans. So a couple of my personal photos, and I showed them to you before we got started, but we've all seen what Red Horse looks like now, and you guys have talked a lot in this interview about getting that airflow out, and you guys switched to this dual exhaust system recently. So here's a beautiful picture of what you're working with right now. But if we go back a little bit, tell the fans kind of what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, that's what we call the Red Thunder's 2-charger setup, and we put that tractor together in 1985, and we put it. We had always ran. Stan was running super stock. I was running pro stock before this, and so the 7 super class we kind of wanted to get into that lighter class. So we had Doug Drussel build us the frame, and then we bought the sheet metal from Sonny Crutcher, and we went up there to Paris, Tennessee, and put the sheet metal on and put the frame on it. And at this time, it still had a lot of bugs to work out. It didn't have any paint on the side shield, but after a year or two, it really got dialed in. It did. I tell you, it did good at Louisville. in the 7 super class. We won Louisville 3 years in a row out there. But it had the right gear and the right combination, and it just back in that day it worked there. But
yeah, and absolutely, that a lot of people might not realize that you guys did have 2 separate tractors, and you were telling me that you guys did go on to paint the side shields on that. But I bet if we polled most diehard vintage Pullng fans, now anybody from my generation, you talk about Red Horse, they're going to picture this. But I bet there's many a fan out there that when you say the Red Horse from Ackley, Texas, this is going to be the photo that's going to come to mind right there. This was your guys' just absolute, cornerstone. This was your flagship for a long time. A lot of fond memories on the seat of this version of the tractor.
Yeah, there was like that. This was a 3-turbo tractor here, and Mark Ulmer helped me put that frame underneath that tractor there. He come down here to the shop, and we put that frame underneath it, and that's what's on it right there. And we run it for a while and had a lot of success with that tractor. But like I was telling you earlier before the show started, running both of them, we was getting both of them on the track and making passes with them, but we wasn't doing a good job of running them, and hats off to the guys that's running 2 or 3 of them vehicles, but just me and Steve by ourselves, we just couldn't handle it. So that's when we combined both of them together and just started running the one.
It's so funny how often Mark Ulmer's name pops up when you start talking to people that have been in Pullng a long time, or just, hey, tell me a quick story on this, or who helped you with that. And, yet again, like that just, that's really interesting. But old Mark, he knows what he's doing. His finger's been in a lot of stuff over the years. I want to circle all the way back. We're going to Mata. We're going to the Netherlands. That's the big thing that's going on. I think one question everybody wants to know when pullers think about, of course, you guys are going to fly over there. How's the tractor getting over there? How do you take Red Horse? And we do need to spend some time talking about Dark Horse as well, because you're not going over there with just the tractor. How are you getting both your Pullng vehicles to the Netherlands?
Well, we're still hoping all that goes right, but from what we understand, they're going to show up here with the container at our shop. And then we're going to pound them both in a container. And we've talked to Hans Boxler, and then there's a gentleman in Chicago that's contacted us that's going to kind of be in charge of the shipping too. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to tie it down, what all kinds of extra stuff, how many extra parts we can take with us, and such as that. But they're supposed to be here April 30th, 1st of May. With the container. We're going to put both vehicles in the container, I guess, while the truck is here, and then it will go from here to Houston, Galveston, a port in that area, and then it will ship out from that area to the Netherlands.
So it'll be on one of those big international shipping barge. It'll just be with everybody's Amazon packages and imports and exports and well,
when we first told our parents that we were going to do that, my mom's first question said, "Well, you're going to go with the Red Horse, aren't you?" I said, "No, I'm not going to take a ship over there."
How long will it take them? How long of a process is that?
I think they said 30 days.
I think, well, the tractor goes on the boat sometime, right after May 1st or whatever, and it don't get into the Netherlands until Wednesday before the pull starts, which would be like June the 12th. So,
and I have done a poor job, but let's talk about this as well. We're not just taking the tractor, we're also taking the truck. Give us the quick, hot and dirty on the Dark Horse 2-wheel drive truck that's going to be going over there with you as well.
Well, that's a story there. We would much rather take the Wild Horse. Wild Horse was second in NTPA points, Grand National points, 2018. It's a good truck. It's a little behind. So we're trying to update that truck. So I had it at Brad Corporal's at Modern Machine, putting some planetaries on it. And then right now it's at Jeremy Nelson's shop getting a new body put on it. So that truck was not available. And they were wanting to get, another vehicle in the container. And so we tried to stall as long as we could, but then we finally said, okay, we'll take Dark Horse. Well, we haven't ran that truck much. We ran it at De Leon, and then we made some passes at Bowling Green. None of them were good passes. We crashed the front end twice on it. So we've been working on it quite a bit. Hopefully we'll kind of get some of the bugs out of it. It's a good looking truck, just hadn't made any good passes down the track yet.
You know, you've talked about two-wheel drive trucks. We've talked about blower motors. You talked about a new set of Pro Puller hole shots, and just there have been too many good segues. I don't think we can leave him in the back room any longer at this point. Let's go ahead and make this the Total Texas Takeover. Let's bring a good friend of yours and mine onto the stage, Cameron Neaves, the Cotton Candy Pullng team. Cameron, how are you, sir? And do you know this Pullng team out of Ackerley, Texas we're hanging out with tonight?
Just a little bit.
I've never met him before.
Cameron, would you agree that those hole shots are the tires to have?
They're the tires to have with 2 inches, I can tell you that.
So they're talking about working the bugs out of their super modified two-wheel drive. You know, yet again, you guys had a good year this year. You pulled your two-wheel drive as well as your modified at National Farm Machinery Show. Are you going to be watching from back in Texas everything that's going down in the Netherlands while the Blagraves go out there and have fun with both their vehicles?
Absolutely. It'll be pretty neat to watch.
Sure. So I want to talk while we're all here on stage, you know, before we kind of transition over to your section of the show. Let's just talk about Pullng in West Texas, you know, out of McAdoo, out of Ackerley, you know, that's all out there in the cotton and the oil field country. You know, what's Pullng mean to you guys? What's Pullng like just in the Lone Star State, you know, in general? And Cameron, Stan, and Steve, just take over and tell us about what your experiences pulling for Texas has been like.
It's a long ways to go anywhere. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is, Cameron, you remember back in the 80s, we had what, 10, 12 pulls in Texas?
Yes. Now we have 2.
Yeah. But we were down in Central Texas and, you know, White Rock back then. What'd they say? This was the 49th year for White Rock, I think.
That's right.
But, you know, we used to have a lot of good pulls, and Donald and Whitey and all them guys was there. And the TTPA, we used to have a lot of 10 or 12 pulls every summer that we would all make, but a lot different now.
Would you guys say that when you do pull in Texas, and this is one thing I've always said since I got involved in the promotion of pulling, is, you know, you really have to tip your cap to the Texas guys, because, you know, there's you three, like you said, there's a Zajax, of course, you got Don Nelson, you've got, you know, the whole gamut of them. And the fact that you guys are willing 7 hours later, for me, 7 hours gets me to a big pull. I drive 7 hours. It's from 7 hours to my house. That puts me in Chapel Hill. That puts me in Rock Valley. 7 hours for you guys, that puts you at the border of Oklahoma and Texas, right? I mean, that just gets you out of the state. So
that's when we switch drivers. About 7 hours.
That's when, yeah, you're just transitioning at that point. You know, the fact that you guys do what you do, it means a lot to the sport. But is it just something that, you know, you couldn't even imagine living without? You know, does it just it's in your blood, I assume, right?
Yes, it is. Of course, you know, the older you get, the more you wonder how much blood you got left of. Does it mean more? And I want to hear from all three of you. We'll go Cameron, Stan, and Steve. We'll go in that order. When you do get to pull in Texas, or especially when you can win in Texas, you know, if you're pulling at Lufkin, or if you're pulling at White Ride, if you're pulling down at Columbus with the Zajax, does it mean a little bit more to be able to win at home just because of, you know, how challenging the travel schedule is?
It just means a lot to get to pull in the state of Texas.
Sure.
You know, De Leon's kind of like our hometown pull for us.
Sure.
Which is 3.5 hours away, but still hometown pull.
Sure. Stan, does it mean more to you when you get a win in the home state?
Well, you know, the diesel super stock thing is kind of different. You know, like in the two-wheel drive class, I would say yes. The diesel super class, you know, there's just none of us out here in this part of the world, and you know, I guess it means more to us, you know, when you got a class of, you know, several in the class that you run against, you know. So I think that's kind of the difference with the two different vehicles that we run.
Sure.
Well, I was going to say this year at White Rod, we were at White Rod in 2019, and then they had our class this year, and it was really neat to see a lot of people we hadn't seen in a long time, because we don't go to White Rod every year, so it was that I really enjoyed that, was getting to see a lot of people that we don't normally see and people that we hadn't seen since the 90s.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Yeah, and we're very excited that that pool is going to continue. That we're back in White, right? That the Outlaws are going to be going there again this year. It does fall on a heck of a date. That's you've got White, right? You've got Toma, and then this year you've got the Show Me Showdown returning in that form in Macon, all falling on that same date. So that is a big weekend of pulling, no doubt. Steve and Stan, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been a great time. I hope you've had half as much fun as I have. I got one question for each of you before I let you go. You've been pulling for a long time. What's your number one favorite track, favorite place, or maybe just your favorite pass you've ever had? Where do you go to and you say that's where I can't wait to pull year in, year out?
I'd have to say Chapel Hill. The tractors always like that dirt there for some reason, but I'd have to say Chapel Hill.
We always love Chapel Hill. The guys down there are that Southern hospitality that they have down there. We haven't really had that much luck the last several years there, but in years past we had a lot of luck there. So yeah, I love that place.
Jason, did you know what they were going to say before they said it? Because you look like an absolute genius where you had the Chapel Hill queued up right when that was spot. Is that one of the closer NTPA pulls for you guys?
Yes, it is.
And how long would it take you to get to Chapel Hill, Tennessee from Akron?
We're right at 1,000 miles from Chapel Hill.
And that's considered the close one.
That's our hometown Grand National.
That's it is a pull. That's a pull unlike any other. Jason, that's kind of where our whole powwow and friendship and partnership got going, was down there in Chapel Hill. It's a great time. Guys, I hope you have a phenomenal experience in the Netherlands. We wish you the best of luck. We wish you luck to your season when you get back home after that. Anybody that you want to thank or give a shout out to, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and just let you give your thank yous and shout outs at this time.
I'd like to say thanks to you guys, for setting this up, and promoting the sport like you do. It's guys like you that keep it going. So we appreciate y'all having us on and continuing to support this.
As far as, I'd like to thank our family for letting us do what we do, for one, but we also got a lot of guys that help us get the tractor together. That'd be Hypermax Engineering. We've been on the phone with them a lot, and then Chad Mayhill with the tires. You know how it is. The list goes on and on.
Sure.
One thing we really love about our class in the Grand National, and Jason can attest to this also, is the camaraderie that we have in the Superstock Diesel class. We talk to each other a lot, try to help each other as much as we can. We want to beat each other on the track, but that's one thing that's great about our class, is we all help each other. And I've been on the phone with Cameron quite a bit the last couple of weeks talking about an alcohol motor, trying to get the dark horse ready. So I got to thank him for that too.
You're going to have to get him talked into driving a smoker one of these days to make it fair and even.
Hey, if we get to drive his, he can drive ours.
That's a deal. That's a deal, buddy.
You heard it here first on Let's Grow Pulling. Cameron Neaves and Stan and Steve Blagrave have agreed that they'll do a swap anytime the other's willing. That's as good as it gets, guys. You guys are icons in the world of pulling. We appreciate everything you do to promote the sport, driving 1,000 miles to your hometown Grand National. Just pray that you keep doing it as long as you're able to keep doing it, because the fans love your vehicle. Best of luck in the Netherlands this year, and thank you so much for joining us on Let's Grow Pulling.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
You betcha. Stan and Steve Blagrave, the dark horse, the wild horse, and of course the red horse. icons in the sport of pulling.
Cameron, where was your favorite pass last year of the outlaw season? I'm going to get that up for you while Mike's chatting with you.
I would say I had quite a few, Jason, but Warrensburg was Wisner Saturday night.
Okay. And shout out to Stan and Steve. They are the gentlemen that they are.
Yep.
I just got the tractor a year ago, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. My singer does everything for me. And I was going to drive it at Whitewright. And, got it started, and then I killed it going up to the line because you have to go up that hill. And my 4.1, you just gave it some throttle, and it just super stock. You got to, I don't get like 3,000 RPMs to get the damn thing to move. So I killed it. And then I was embarrassed, and yeah, so I'm just gonna let my dad drive it for a while. And my singer. But anyway, it was hot, and Cameron got me a starter, and we burnt that one up too. I had some electrical stuff going on at the same time, but we tried, Cameron. Damn it, we tried.
We tried.
My dad was like, "That's Stan and Steve Blagrave laying under your tractor helping you." I'm like, "Yeah, the super stock," and they said it. The super stock class is great. I mean, they do. Like Travis to go around from trailer to trailer after the pull with a beer in his hand and be like, Schlaba, and be like, all right, you guys okay for tomorrow? What do you need? You know? And then they help each other out. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, I'll shut up. You start talking, Mike. Sorry.
That's my favorite part about pulling. It actually reminds me of the story 2 years ago, Cameron, when you guys had your motor problems. And I think, was it Donald called you up and said, hey, we got one, or vice versa. One of the two of you lent one to the other. But anywho, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him his formal introduction. Cameron Neaves, your 2024 7,400-pound outlaw truck and tractor pulling modified champion. And Cameron, the world's got some exciting news because you've pulled at the Pullers Championship. And this is our Pullers Championship section of the show. But typically when you pull at the Pullers Championship, it's with this setup. Now, to the common fan, they're going to say, okay, well, that's, him at Freedom Hall, and he kicked butt there in 2024, and that's a triple engine mod. But that's not where that tractor lives and breathes. Your triple motor setup, you only run, 3, 4, maybe 5 times a year, right?
Maybe 3 at the most, yeah.
Sure. So this year, just released, just made public like 3 or 4 days ago, the Pullers Championship has decided that they're going to run the 7,400-pound modified with the Outlaw and ITPA rules. Now, they're calling it the light mod class, and we'll talk about that because there's been some confusion. It's not the NTPA light mod class. It's kind of different, but you get to run your tractor the way God intended it with those twin Hemis sitting out there out front. Are you excited to be able to show the world, beyond, the Outlaws, to cross the river and say, hey, here's what this thing can do in its true form?
Yeah, we're very excited to get to run that class. That's our bread and butter, and that's where we're most comfortable running. We run all summer that way, that setup, and we just feel like we do a better job with 2 than 3.
Which is funny because, I almost talked myself in a circle. I got to thinking about it. You've ran with 3 engines. It's not like this tractor didn't exist in a 3-engine setup at one point. Tell us about that, and then tell us, how and when it changed, and just kind of maybe compare the two.
Well, we built this tractor in, I guess we got it in the COVID year, so it'll be 2020, and we ran it a whole year. We always ran a few times that year, and then the next year we ran all season, then we decided to go ahead and apply for the farm show, and we got in. So then we added a 3rd engine, and we've done that every year since then to get to go to Louisville. In 2024, we got invited to go to the Mac National Deals in Louisville, the truck show. Mm-hmm. And then we also pulled at the Pullers Championship. We've pulled 3 years at the Pullers Championship with 3 engines.
But you also ran it, I'm talking when it was triple Chevys.
Yes, but it's a totally different tractor, Mike.
So it doesn't even, so having 3 Chevys out there, it's not like sitting there saying, okay, well, 3 is 3, and I'm, it's throw that handbook out the window. That doesn't even, It
doesn't count anymore.
Do you, so you made the switch. You made the switch from the triple Chevy to the twin Hemi. Are you just, as a driver, do you like the twin Hemis way more? Is it just way more fun that way?
We do. Seems like the Hemis are quite a bit more durable than the Chevys were. And we just didn't feel like we were competing where we wanted to be with 3 Chevys.
What are you most excited about for the world to see? Let's kind of sink our teeth in this class. What maybe does the average fan not know about it, or what are you looking forward for them, when they watch this at the Pullers Championship? What should they kind of pay attention to, or what do you like best about it?
I just think that that class will put on a very good show for the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be 10 or 11 or 12 running there. And to me, it's just as exciting class as the 3 or 4 motor deal.
It's a good horsepower to weight ratio. Now, people have kind of got confused because, the TPC is labeling it the light modified class, which is fair because it is lighter than their modified class, but it's 7,400 pounds, which is significantly heavier. People think light mod and they think 6,000 pounds. So you're still coming in at very much what I would call like a modified weight. But with your twin Hemis, triple Chevys, or your industrial motors, and folks will see some of those at the Pullers Championship as well, I feel it allows you guys as the driver, your kind of like your skill of driving to take over. You get to put that power to the track, and you can kind of apply what that tractor is willing to give you.
I agree. They do a good job of putting that pull on at Nashville. We're just excited to get to run our normal class there. I don't feel like outside I feel like we have a better chance of competing with 2 engines than we do the 3 against the 4.
Yeah, because you were telling me about this 3 on a 240-foot track. So like you take your 3 setup, you go up against a Bill Leichner or the Simons. When they can get out and run, on that backside. I mean, 4 is kind of more than 3, no matter how you split it, regardless of what blower you put on top of it. So you do feel that it kind of tilts the table back to those 4-engine guys. But when you can play in your own class, you're going to see, and there's a lot of, the fans are going to see a lot of heavy hitters. Who are some people that the fans are maybe going to watch in this class other than yourself that they're going to get excited about?
Well, I know that Donald Nelson's bringing at least 1, possibly 2 tractors there.
Sure.
Vern Hoosier.
Yeah.
Wayne Sullivan. I think Kyle Pesh is going with the 2 turbines.
So we'll see a lot of the outlaw class, which is going to be fun because we typically hang out west of the river. Now, I know that this year we scheduled a pull over there, 1 or 2 pulls over there in Illinois, but we're going to have some fans that haven't really seen this class before, and I think they're going to like what they see. You really found something in the tractor this last year in 2024. When did you feel that the tractor really locked in and kind of turned the table for you, and you knew that you were on that championship season run?
I think the big change was Bloomfield, Iowa, Mike. We put the Pro Puller whole shots on. We had a set of Pro Pullers on, but we put the whole shots on, and those tires completely changed our tractor.
Yep.
I don't know that I knew I was on a championship run at that point, but going to when I left home to go into Lufkin, I thought we had a chance to win it then. Yes, but I wasn't going to count my chickens before that.
When did it? Because see, I thought going into Lufkin, I thought you guys had it wrapped up. At what point? At what point was it wrapped up?
When we showed it at Lufkin.
Okay, so after Lufkin, so then you guys did something kind of neat too. Once you'd had that wrapped up, Saturday night, your dad got to climb back in there and drive, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
When was the last time George has driven the Cotton Candy Modified?
He drove it when it was brand new in 2020 in Wichita Falls, Texas. So it's been 4 years.
What was it like for you sitting over there, championship in your back pocket, 7 wins? I don't remember what it was. It's either 7 or 9 wins on the season. And then watching, I assume you're like everybody else, your dad's the reason you're in Pullin, watching him getting to get back in the driver's seat. Is that a pretty emotional, is that a pretty fun experience to watch him?
Very special.
Sure. What did he think of the run when he was done with it?
He wasn't happy with it, but we're going to do it again.
Are you?
Yeah.
He goes, damn it, I interviewed him. He said, I didn't do a good enough job. It was funny.
but not bad for 4 years later, and haven't been on it since. Beyond the Pullers Championship, what are you
Cameron,
most
where were you in the class? I'm trying to search. Cameron, can you hear me? Where were you in the class?
I'd say I was on the early side, Jason.
Okay.
I think.
If you guys won it, we've got loaded in the back room here. Cameron, we've got your run at Sac City where you blew it out the big end pretty good. If folks wanted to take a look at that one's loaded if you just want to throw it up there quickly.
That one's fine, Mike. That's fine.
Okay. Yep, I got that, Mike. Thanks.
And this is fun because I want to pick Cameron's brain about what happened at Sac City anyway, because I announced it incorrectly and I still need to go back and fix it. So we'll take a look at that run over here.
All right, here we go. Here's Sac City. Here's Sac City, Mike.
So, folks, in case you're curious, the checkered flag was the leadership flag at the point, and you can see how the entire wagon says goodbye to that. Walk us through a run like that, Cameron. At what point do you know that it's hooked and you're gone?
Oh, probably at 200 foot. I know it was going to go it was going to go way out there. The sled was just a little bit light. So I let off because the blade tractor and the Packer tractor guys were kind of sitting in the middle of that track. I felt like I was going to crowd Tom against those tractors, so I let off. And then Wayne Lonerick ended up beating me that run distance, but they called it a full pull, so Wayne and I chose to just split first and second.
So that's how I announced it, and then when I went back, it looked like, and maybe they just flipped it or whatever. So you could call that one a win for you. You guys both, they actually set a full pull. It was so funny because I just got done. I just finished telling the crowd, hey, to all you old school pullers, pull-offs don't exist anymore. We just run what's called a floating finish. If they can haul it to Mars, they'll haul it to Mars. And then you took it to the unpacked dirt, and then Wayne took it to the unpacked dirt. And then they said, well, we're going to call 370 a full pull. And I had to say, okay, everyone, just kidding. We're gonna have a good old fashioned pull off at this place. But pullers today, and this is worth talking about, pulling a second time is really not something anybody ever wants to do.
Not really.
Yep. Is it just you build so much heat, or it's just too much of a risk, or walk us through the thought process of a puller as to why you kind of avoid that?
Well, nowadays we run them so hard, Mike. They're hot.
Yeah.
And we like to be able to check oil filters before we run again.
Yep.
Make sure there's not any major problems. And a long time ago, we didn't even think about that. We just fire and run again. But we would rather run once and go to the trailer.
Sure. And especially in a season like ours with the Outlaws, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you guys, and right there in that Sac City, and if I'm remembering this correctly, that's one of those weeks where we go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you're probably running that machine 4 days in a row. And there's no need to push those ponies anymore once they've already hauled the mail out the back door.
Right.
Yep. What are you most looking forward to this season, 2025? You grabbed your first championship in 20 years last year. What, that's got to be feeling good, but you come in with the bullseye on your back. What's your thought process headed into the year this year? What are you focusing on?
Well, we just freshened everything up, Mike, and we're going to make a run at the season, see how we do.
So are you one of those teams that just, as long as everything's happy and healthy and moving, you just kind of let the chips fall where they may? Or do you kind of go through and say, all right, we're going to try to grab a top 5 here, and we're going to try to win this one, and, it's points championships or bust? What's your mindset when you tackle a season?
Well, my mindset is every time we back up to the sled, we're trying to win first.
Sure.
You and I both know it doesn't happen like that, but that's your mindset.
Yep. So with that mindset, what pulls, are there certain places you like to go that when you do walk away with the win, it it means, something extra, like, is it winning the Thunderbolt or winning the Rock, or is there just some places that just matter to you? What are some of your favorite places to go grab a victory?
Well, we really like going to White Right, and we're excited about to get to go back. And we like going to DeLeon, like I said earlier. We enjoy going to Rock Valley. It's special to win the Rock. I love winning at Wisner. Well, I've never won the Thunderbolt at Wisner before, ever. We've won a hook, but we've lost a tiebreaker before. So I look forward to trying to get one of those Thunderbolts before it's over.
What would it mean to you? So especially you've talked about running that triple engine setup. I want to tie this back into the Pullers Championship. Running that triple engine setup, something you don't do all season. You're running against the 4 engine mods. It's a big challenge there at the Pullers Championship. This year you're coming in a little bit more data. You're running against guys you've pulled against. You're running the tractor as it likes to sit. Would a win at the Pullers Championship, would that be kind of an extra special one as well? Would you put that one up in the front of the trophy case?
It would be. That the first one, the front of the trophy case is that second place finish at the farm show last year.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That was, that was a neat circumstance. There's 2 times that I've been in Freedom Hall where I've heard the entire crowd go dead silent. And the funny part is both people were on the show tonight. It was in 2020 when Stan and Steve, the first year that they recombined the alcohol and the diesels, and Stan and Steve had a shot to win it first year with the diesel, and they ended up blowing the smoke tube off. That place was silent before they pulled with anticipation. And the year that you laid down that monster pass, and I think you held it till, was it the Simons that I think they got you, but were they like the last ones of the class or something like that? And I remember
I think that's right, Mike.
I think they were holding their breath, and it was one of those, you've got the mega giants, the Simons, and you've got the guy all the way from Texas who only straps the 3rd on twice a year. Is he going to get the job done? And that place, you could have heard a pin drop because it was, just the tension was so high. So that one you actually say is that your pride and joy? Is actually, it's a number 2 spot, but that's the one that you're going to look back on most fondly right now.
That and that championship last year was both special.
Let's go way back, 2004. You won a points championship in 2004. Tell us about that season. Was there anything that stood out, or was that your first points championship?
Yes, it was.
So what was that like? Did you have it all year long? Did it come right down to the wire?
No, if I remember correctly, Donald and I tied for points, and we had the same number of first places, and I had one more second place finish than he did.
So you actually went to like the second rung of the tiebreaker.
Yes.
The rule book says, you go points, then you go wins, then you go second places. So that's like double overtime to figure out who wins that as well. What about your 2-wheel drive truck? It does well at the farm show. It does well with the Outlaws every year. Won best appearing in the super modified 2-wheel drive truck class this year. We didn't see Seth at all on it this year. We saw Cameron drive it quite a bit. What's in store for the T-Bucket this year?
Well, we're going to haul it everywhere we go, Mike.
Yep.
I imagine Cameron will drive it majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope to improve on our finishes from last year. We found a problem with it. It wasn't running like up to par like we thought it should. So we hope to do a little bit better this year with it.
Do you ever climb in the seat of the 2-wheeler? Is that something you used to do way back, or is that just kind of their thing?
No, it's their thing, but I'm going to drive it in Farley, Iowa.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I knew that or not. So you're not, you kind of said, I don't get to take my mod, but I want to go. So you're going to go throw down up at Farley. When was the last time you were in the seat of a super modified 2-wheel drive?
Oh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years probably.
Tell us about Farley, since you brought it up and since we're here. What would that mean to you, and just what's your overall impression of what's going on up there that the Simons have put together this year?
Well, I think it's a very neat thing they're doing, and it's going to take a tall order to even get past the prelims on your given night you're supposed to run. They're taking 10 per night, and then 1 wild card out of each night. So there'll be 22 running on Saturday night for 50,000.
Well, and you've got 25 it's like 50 total, isn't it? You got 25 on Thursday night, 25 on
Yes.
Friday night. Whoever wins that thing, what a gauntlet, because just to survive like you said, to survive the round of 25 and then to come back out on top, and $50,000. I bet you could find a thing or two on the Pullin tractor and the 2-wheel drive truck that you could enjoy having that, wouldn't you?
We could use it.
So, no, that is absolutely awesome. So, well, Cameron, we've pushed you right up to the edge of your time right here. Best of luck in your 2025 season. First of all, good luck at the Pullers Championship, folks. If you're thinking about going, be sure to go May 16th and 17th in Nashville, Illinois. Cameron Neaves is going to be representing the Cotton Candy Pullng team there. Is this the 3rd year in a row in Nashville?
4th
year in a row. So 4 years in a row. A man who's not afraid to travel and never afraid to represent the Outlaws, in these all-star events. Be sure to come on out, and you'll get to watch this tractor pulling in its true blue setup, something that I think a lot of you guys, if you haven't seen this class, folks, come and watch it. The hot and dirty of it is 2 Hemis, 3 Chevys, or you can run an industrial motor. You might see a DT 466 on alcohol. You might see a V12 turbocharged. You might see some Allisons. It puts a lot of variety back into things. Cameron, who do you need to thank for your success, or just who do you want to give a shout out to before we let you go tonight?
My dad especially, and our whole family, we go a lot. That our family travels a lot to these pulls as a group. And I got the best truck driver in the world. He drives every mile nearly.
Who's that?
Dad does. Dad drives nearly every mile.
Your dad still, so he still just drives the truck everywhere.
About 99.9%.
Is that by his choice, by your choice? Do you wish he would let you drive a little bit more?
Nope. He drives when he wants. And when he's ready to take a nap, I drive.
That's awesome. No, honestly, people, some of the nicest pullers that you'll meet, go talk to the Cotton Candy Pullng team. Pullers love it when you come out and meet them. 2 things that they told me, I talked to your folks and they said 2 things you'll always find in our camp. And that's a Dr. Pepper and a cookie. So you can always come by and they'll talk pulling with you anytime, and you won't meet a nicer gentleman out there than George Neaves. Recent Hall of Fame inductee. That was a pretty cool experience, I bet, as well.
It was. It very much was.
Yep. Well, Cameron, big season. Love getting a chance to talk with you. I'm enjoying our phone calls from time to time. It's kind of turning into a tradition. And folks, you'll be hard pressed to meet someone out there who enjoys pulling more than Cameron Neaves. He's going to be at the Pullers Championship. He's going to be at Farley, and he's your defending points champion in the 7,400-pound modified outlaw class. Best of luck this season. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thanks, Cameron. All right. As we wait for Gene Dunn to pop on while we go through our Pullin Through the Past, Jason, let's react to some more Pullng news from this week. This week, they dropped the top 5 driver ranking modified 4-wheel drive trucks. And I'm sure you had a chance to peruse that and look at the This Week in Pullng podcast and go over it. I'm going to pull up my list. You said you were just going to shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
Top 5. Let's do a live react. We did this last time where we kind of we stirred the pot a little bit and we kind of, gave our opinion. So as voted on by the fans, your top 5 modified.
No, this is their fellow competitors.
Yeah, yes, I said by the fans. Voted on by the competitors. Sorry. Voted on by their peers.
You had to be a 24 competitor. Yeah, you had to be a 24 competitor to vote, and you have to vote for somebody that pulled last year. So this is the top 5 that was announced last week. So 2-wheel drives was 2 weeks ago. 4-wheel drives was last week, and then this week is Pro Stocks coming out this Wednesday night. So Pro Stocks are coming out this Wednesday night. This Week in Pullng is a new podcast. Episode 5 comes out every Wednesday night at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. It's Dan Mayer, the voice of Full Pull. And then we have Miles and Jeremy Krieger. I think the whole world has heard of those 3. So this is the 5 that they rolled out last week. So Rob Foster, Jim Bosch, Paul Holman, Mark Mangan, Jake Zeri. Mike, the first thing that jumps to me is Terry Hagendorn. That's the one that gets me. So otherwise, I think hard to argue with any of them. And again, fans, there's pullers from the Outlaws that voted for this. There's pullers from PPL that voted this. There's pullers from NTPA. This is not a just a certain sanctioning body. These pullers were selected, and they go to a website. It's anonymous. They fill it out. It's tabulated in the background. Then the computer spits out it, and this is what we came up with. So it's pretty neat. Pretty neat, Mike. So,
yeah,
but you're more of a door slammer fan than I am. So
so this was actually what I wrote my article on this week. And folks, if you want to go out there and kind of delve deeper into my, senseless ramblings, you can check that out. But my biggest takeaway when I was done with this was actually a list I would have loved to have seen who were the 6 through 10 guys. Because I will just about bet you number 6, number 7, number 8 had to have been like one vote shy, because there's a lot of names when you start thinking about the modified 4-wheel drives. When you think about Steve Clem, just won the farm show. You think about Larry and Lisa Peterson. You think about Terry Hagendorn. And that was funny because as I wrote my list, I paused the Let's Grow or the This Week in Pullng podcast. I paused it. I made my list, and then I clicked play. And my gut react, and Miles's gut react, and Dan's gut react, and Jeremy's gut react were almost all identical. And yours the same way too. High gear hag, and Dan and I even kind of said the same thing. Not only, and I would show my list. Not only would High Gear Hag make my list, he would have been number 1. And I think Dan echoed that sentiment.
And I really, really want to stress, the pullers that were voted, they said they can't vote for a teammate. Okay, that was one of the things, but not who has the most money, not who has the best equipment, who has the best driver. And I feel like in the 4-wheel drive class, there's this mountain motor versus a small motor thing, Mike. And I think that gets taken into account a little bit first.
So that is very, I would agree, and I'm going to rebuttal just a little bit. So when you look at it that way, so if you're saying who can do the most with the least, then if you kind of consider a 650 the least, which is kind of a crazy thought, Jake Zering, absolutely. And I have no problem with the top 5 list. That top 5 list is perfect, especially Jake being number 1. He drives it like he steals it, and I think he's a phenomenal track reader. My only rebuttal would be, and I can almost hear Terry saying this, is, a mountain motor is so much to manage. You have to be so throttle sensitive. A 650, you're going to have a little wiggle room because coming into that hole shot, you're less likely to blow the tires off and it's less likely to bounce. Now, obviously, you've got to make up for that on the second half of the track. But those mountain motors, I think, you might say like, oh, well, they're so much bigger, so I got so much more horsepower, so anyone can win with them. And I get it. But I also think that would make them very sticky to drive because just a little bit in that throttle and they're going to jump, so much more quickly. But a lot of good 4-wheel drive truck drivers out there. Jamie Bush Mike, was another one,
Do you think driving's more important? And now this is for the fans watching too. Is it more important in lesser horsepower classes or higher horsepower classes? Because to me, if I'm Joe Ader and I have all the horsepower, Mike, do I just pick a line on the track and I give her? Because you don't see those guys walking it out. You know what I mean? I think a 4-wheel drive truck class is truly a driver's class. A 2-wheel drive truck class is truly a driver's class. I really do. But again, I don't consider myself a track reader. I'm more worried like, why aren't there more people here? Are all our cameras set? But I really want to hear from the fans. That's really what I want to do. And this is something Full Pull is going to do once a year, Mike. This is just year 1. And I'm excited to hear from the fans from this. But I truly believe that. I truly believe that, Mike. I think because you look at the distance, it's like a super farm class, Mike. 10 people stacked within 2 or 3 feet of each other. I think we see that in the 4-wheel drive class. I think the 2-wheel drive class, and I think we see that in super farm more than any other classes. And those are, I shouldn't say a 2-wheel drive is lower horsepower, but compared to a mod, they are.
Yeah, I know what you're like. They're the lighter. No, I know what you're saying. I definitely would say that in a naturally aspirated class, especially, I always announce it. When I announce it, I call it the nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. It's there's nothing. Your motor has to generate its own horsepower, and you are in charge of applying that, because there's no blower, there's no charger. Track reading becomes paramount. The only downside to that is, yes, it's a driver's class, but also when tracks change, I do think it affects like a four-wheel drive truck class drastically more. Though, like you can almost, like, it's like playing pitch. If you watch a four-wheel drive truck class and the sun is going to set in the middle of the class, it does not matter how far the first driver goes. He's turning his hook down, because he knows that track is going to get tacky, and everyone that gets the advantage of pulling after dark will go farther than him. So the track variation, you've got to, you got to read the track, you got to drive the track.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through the top
I
five.
I have one we talked about last week, and I just messaged Gene. We're waiting to see Gene, and Gene told me he works in the tire business and the trucking business. He said he wanted to make sure he was good and pretty for us, so he said he was gonna get himself all sharpened up. So he might be taking some extra time in the green room. So while we wait for Gene to log on, last week we talked about drivers and just what do drivers mean? Is there a number one driver? And I said I think Carlton Cope. And I gave this story, and I found my supporting evidence, and I'm going to do a share screen really quick here.
Let me take my graphic down for you, Mike. Give me a second. Okay, it's all yours, buddy.
So I had claimed that if you give Carlton Cope identical setup to everyone, like if you give him the torpedo bat, if you're a sports guy, if you give him the same steroids that everybody else is using. So 2021, I thought I remembered this.
You did.
Look what Carlton Cope did in one of the Mack tractors. Go ahead and read that distance for us.
384.
384. That's an NTPA pull. NTPA, who was not really receptive to mega distances for quite some time.
Where was this at, Mike? Was this Rockwell?
Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill.
Hill 2021. They were spinning out in the grass. There was grass flying up off of his tire. Now, if you look at the Saturday night results, Vaughn definitely. Yeah, he said, no, boys, that's enough of that nonsense. But I think Carlton Cope, if you just gave him the cookie cutter mold, the formula that everybody, you know what I'm saying? Just here is the same, neatest, sweetest, most completest. I think.
Do you think he'll be in the top 5 in pro stock drivers? Because that gets revealed in about 2.
Yeah, and that's where that talks about what we're talking about.
Right.
Are we voting for? And I think the drivers, I thought about this while I was writing my article too. I think they know how to think that way better than I as a fan or an announcer would.
Yep.
I think in terms of vehicles, the loud and heavy is a rock star, or the Mac Daddy is a rock star, because you don't see their feet moving. You don't see their hand moving on the throttle when you're up in the stands. You just see the vehicle go out there and blow the doors off. But the drivers, they know each other. So when you ask them who the best drivers are, that's probably what they understand a lot better than we do.
That's really, it was told directly, not the most money, not the best equipment. Who do you fear most as a driver?
Yep.
That's what they voted for. And they voted for their top, their second, their third, their fourth, and fifth, and it's divvied points on that. And then they upload it into a website, and then the computer calculates it and spits it out. So that's how it works. So it's pretty neat. Pretty neat. So
yep.
And it's Chris, it's Carlton without an E, just so you know, Chris. Not that it matters, but I fat finger stuff all the time. So
who is someone you would pick in any of the classes? You pick them out of the roll cage and you drop them either in any other vehicle in their same class, or you could just drop them in any pulling vehicle, and you're going to say that guy's gal's driving talent alone makes them a threat.
Like a Terry Blackburn.
Sure. Yeah.
Lane, Brett Berg. I'm trying to think of just naturals. You know,
Could you
like a
even-
Tim Kaine? You
That's
saw last year when he had been underpowered for years. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think, but he went after the big boys last year and got a win in Benson right away. One of those, and had his best season he's had in a long time. Got his first Grand National win, I think, since 2018. You know what I mean?
Tim Kaine's a great response. That is, kind of the same thing what I'm saying with Carlton. Like, if you give him, the juice and the goose, like,
yep. I didn't see Mark Ulmer in his heyday. I only seen Mark Ulmer drive in his Outlaws, and I feel like he has the best light super stock ag tractors. So I would like to see him pull against somebody with similar horsepower. But do I think Ulmer could drive anything? I do. I mean, I'm trying to if you want to go by association, some of the best drivers, Ulmer jumps out at me. Any of the Ulmers probably, right?
So I would stick with that then and go back to what we were talking about with Cameron Neaves in the 7,400-pound modified class. There is no reason that a triple Chevy setup should still be winning in a world full of Hemis. So
but
if you take
the power to the ground.
But what I'm saying is if you take a Craig Ulmer, someone like you said, anyone with the last name Ulmer, you can apply them pretty well. So no, that's good stuff. So
I feel like the Outlaws do the best out of all the associations on different combinations and then trying to make them equal. You know what I mean? Like, especially in that mod class. I think the Outlaw mod class is the closest thing we have to European mods. And when you talk to a true Pullin fan, they tell you that United States mods are boring because they're all just Hemis. And that's why I like the light mod class, because I know Brent and Paul are working on the lineup and they're trying to invite, but there's a possibility of 3 or 4 different engine combinations. But if you go to a Toma or a Henry or a Hillsboro, you're going to see 4 Hemis or 3 Hemis or 5 Hemis. You know what I mean? It's all the same. And there's nothing. I get it. That's why I don't pull an Alice Chalmers anymore either, because I couldn't get parts anymore to compete at that level. And that's where you go. But again, now everybody's got the same stuff. Who can outdrive them? And that's really what it comes down to. But like in a three-wheel drive class, Mike, there's 60 in a class. Who's that person that the lead hasn't changed in 20 trucks? And Chase Richardson, I know I work for the guy, but he did that down there at that pull in Lexington, where he was the last hook with an exhibition pass, and nobody had taken a lead since the first hook, and he went by 6 or 7 feet. You know what I mean? So to me, that's that kind of driver that I believe in, that I would like talk to Cameron Neaves. He's watching Simons come down the track at Louisville and he's got the lead. I'm scared of Brandon Simon.
Yeah.
Right? He's proven that he can drive freaking anything. He jumped on a pro stock, had immediate success.
There's your answer when we said who can literally drive anything. Well, the proof's in the freaking pudding, because they own. I always joke that they could have a pull just like by themselves. They could just like a family reunion, just be like, hey, let's get the toys out and like have a pull, because like they have driven in every single class.
But I don't like to give a lot of opinions on it. I'm not afraid to give an opinion ever, but like I'm not a student of the game like you or Dan Mayer or stuff like that. So I don't like it, but I just know who I think is, probably going to win. So it comes down to vehicle too. You know what I mean?
I think you mentioned how the mod class was, other people would call it boring, and I understand the point you're saying.
And I don't mean boring.
No.
Don't take that the wrong way. It's bad.
No.
But from that true, where's the Griffins? Where's the Allisons? Where's the Turbines?
I would argue, I would go one step deeper, and I would say that the results at the farm show this year in the pro stock class, I would say that the Sheltons saved us from the pro stocks almost going down that path.
Right.
We were getting so much in here's a plain clothes, unpainted 680 big block John Deere. Here's a plain clothes 680 big block John Deere. And then to finally see some red ones and some Hypermaxes and, Tim Kaine come back and doing what he was doing. And Esden Lemke, who does it with a small block Deere, so it's good. It's good to see that class mixing it back up again as well. Because that's what fans, nobody wanted the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year because they're tired of the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. Everybody
wanted Rory McIlroy to win the Masters yesterday. Let's be honest.
I don't watch golf. Did he win the Masters?
He did. Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry. But
So,
yeah,
hey,
that's what we have.
I know we're still waiting on Gene. We got about 12 minutes left before we need to sign off. We can always get Gene back on another time.
Yep.
We are hiring at Full Pull Live, and we put a Facebook post up today, and I want to share that. We need camera people, we need production technicians, and we're countrywide now with the merger of the Outlaws. Full Pull Live purchased the media rights to Outlaw Pulling TV. It's now under the Full Pull Live blanket. And if anybody wants, it can be just a summer job. It can be, we're pretty much pulling 10 months out of the year now, and the off season too as well. So here is the post we put up. I just want to play this little video quick. Kind of shows behind the scenes a little bit, some of the stuff we do. And you've seen the trailer, Mike, so you know what it's like. So it's good stuff. But we have a forum on our Facebook page, and I'll put that in the links as well here for people. So if you have like kids, adults, we don't care. I mean, not a kid. I need somebody that can run a camera, but you know what I'm trying to say, Mike. So
if you're a 16-year-old kid, if you're an 18-year-old kid just getting out of high school and you are looking for a fun summer experience and you love pulling or motorsports or agriculture or FFA, you could probably use it towards your project, and you want some fold-in cash, like you can be a part of a tractor pull, like to work, operating in the live stream, to be on the track or operating one of these cameras. Like you can pay to go to a pull. I always tell this to my wife, like, Jason, you golf, like you pay money to do your hobby. Like
yep.
I get paid money to go do my hobby. So go work for Full Pull and like be not a spectator, but be a part of the pull. It is quite it's a fun time. What, Jason, we both have talked about this. What's one of the funnest jobs that you and I both do?
This one.
This how about the starting line
camera?
The starting line camera. But take your Tylenol beforehand and don't complain of achy shoulders.
James Harmon is in Niagara Falls, New York. Wow.
Speaking of Jim Harmon, and it looks like Gene is, he's a busy man. He's got, a trucking and tire company. Let's go ahead and run Pulling Through the Past. I do have other photos loaded. We've got all sorts of stuff, so we can still talk about those, and then we can tie a ribbon on the West Texas takeover.
So the Massetti and Friends starts at 9 Central, and we used to kind of run. We kept the same live going, and we would just roll into theirs. But now we have a cut on ours and a clean cut on theirs. Kind of lets their fans know that they're live now. So, but man, what a show! Blagraves, Cameron Neaves. I love breaking down the 4-wheel drive power rankings. Real quick, and then we'll do Pulling Through the Past. Give me your top 5 pro stock drivers. Go.
Pro stock drivers.
Pro stock tractor drivers.
Carlton Cope.
Okay.
Ooh, just drivers, not tractors. You want drivers.
Drivers. Okay.
Carlton Cope. Injected funds.
Brent Meyer.
Yep, I'm going to go Brent Meyer. I'm going to go Wagler.
Yep.
I'm going to put him on my list.
He can drive.
I think he's another one of those. I don't want to say he gets a lot out of a little, but like, I like not at all, but I feel like he's kind of an X factor one. Ooh, Julia Ray. Julia Ray is probably my number one. I would actually, or my number 2. I would put Julia Ray, Carlton Cope 1 and 2. She just wins. Some people win points championships, and then some people just grab like 5 wins at the end of the year. Julia Ray is one of those. Like she just has a good nose for getting into the winner's circle. And then Rob Russell.
Ooh, I like it.
That would be my shooting from the hip. And then again, I'd have to push that out to 10 because I didn't put Peter Norton. I didn't put, Brandon and RJ Simon. I didn't put Tim Kaine. Like I didn't there's a lot that I didn't put Rhett Parrish. Like I didn't put Tim Shelton or, the Sheltons on there, like Reese Shelton on there. Like, but those would be my 5 if I had to just shoot right now.
I like it. All right. Take us through Pulling Through the Past. That'll come out this Wednesday night, and then Mike and I'll rehash it next Monday night. So
Pulling Through the Past. So if Gene Dunn would have joined us, he would have told us about this truck right here. This was actually owned and driven by John Mann originally. This is the Lady Butterfly. I believe it started its life as a super stock semi, or your big rig, your hot rod semi. Gene has it now, and I believe it's a pro stock semi that he pulls in the OSTPA. This was taken at Macon, Missouri. I actually took this when I was about 12 years old, which is why the, picture quality is terrible. But if you've never seen this truck run, go watch it. It's really, really neat. The semi guys, they're big into like their graphic and the whole presentation, the butterfly up front. It used to flash. Jason, had you seen this run back in its heyday?
Yeah, at Toma. Yep.
This thing where they would flip the lights on and the butterfly would start flapping and come to life and everything.
It's the truth. I love the semi-truck class. It's cool. So cool. A lot of different things going on.
Well, they're not afraid to steer into the like, hey, we're showmen. They'll turn the lights on. Who was it? Was it J.R. Collins that used to blow the fire? He purposefully would like turn the fire on and blow it. So, awesome stuff. Of course, we had Red Thunder in the year that it debuted. Steve and Stan told us about that. This is going to be either the Missouri State Fair or Bethany, Missouri in 1985. Then we have the Red Horse. This is yours truly.
Nice.
At about one of the first tractor pulls I ever attended.
Sweet mullet, bro.
Hey, man, we can bring it back if we need to. Just don't make me wear the short overalls combo. But this is me. This is what started it. Going to pulls with my dad and looking at this stuff. Didn't know that these people weren't, Michael Jordan or Mick Jagger. Like when I went and watched the pulls, I thought they were the same level. So from the same area, this of course is a Show Me Showdown. Going to be very similar to the same year. This is courtesy of Jim Harmon. Kevin Embry pulling a good-looking little light super stock on alcohol. I don't know that there's a 460 or a 560 left that doesn't have spark plugs in it, because I think every last one of them was turned into a light super, and I don't think they ever blew smoke ever again.
Yep.
Also courtesy of Jim Harmon, this is Kimber Wilson. And the only thing I have about this is just Farmall. Now, Hope asked me for some old school pictures that would not fly with today's safety rules. Jason, take a look at this one. We have, I don't know who Kimber is. And Kimber, if you're watching, I mean this with like the kindest sincerity, but we have a lot of driver on this tractor.
A lot. Yep.
There is much driver and zero fire suit and an open faced helmet. And that's, he probably hung a few extra weights on the front is all I'm going to say.
Yep.
And then courtesy of Keith Hammonds.
So does Keith have like a weekly picture he sends you?
Keith sent me like a whole like caboodle. He sent me like his entire like photo, like, collection. But Keith really good at sending photos. Keith really bad at like giving names and information. So like
Keith doesn't talk a lot.
I responded to Keith and I said, hey, the one with Jolly Green Giant, who is that? And so this is all I have. And he just replies, Lashmet. So Mr. Lashmet or Mrs., if you're out there watching, let us know. So
that's from Illinois then, if it's Lashmet's.
That's all it says is Lashmet.
Yeah.
So Lashmet drove this one. Now, here was a pretty famous one, and my sons actually have a toy of this one. This was the Big Iron, driven by Lee Farrell. This thing is all over the internet.
Yeah.
And they make toys of this. They make T-shirts of this. And I watch a lot of like old vintage pulling. I have never seen a single video of this truck pull. I don't know anything about it, but I guess it is like famous. So
yeah,
Big
we
Iron.
got to talk to our buddy Dan Mayer about that.
Yeah, it's this one. This one is like the Silver Bullet or like the Banner Brothers of like vintage four-wheel drives. And I don't know boo about it, but it is everywhere. So, I mean, literally, we were at Tractor Supply the other day and we bought a replica, 427 on the side. The boys have it downstairs. So, I don't know. Guess the guy was a rock star. I have no idea who he is. Pulling through the past. A lot of iconic pulling names tonight, Jason.
I love it.
Yep.
Love it. Upcoming live stream for Full Pull, Columbus, Texas, May 2nd and 3rd. That'll be Texas Truck and Tractor Pulling Association. And then we have Glencoe, Kentucky, Sullivan's Pull next week. And then the Polish Championship is its own live stream because obviously it's all the money from that goes back to the pullers from there. And then Full Pull Livestock kicks off in Benson and then Ravenna for the Outlaws. So it's going to be exciting. So good stuff. Good stuff. Michael?
Yep.
Appreciate you. Kenzie turned 26 yesterday. She got a ride in a sled Saturday night in Litchfield, Kentucky. Now, somebody sent me this video during the pull from Halls, Tennessee, and the sled malfunctioned. So if anybody knows anything about this, I am curious. We only got a minute left, but I wanted to play this quick. Somebody sent this to me during the show here, so I uploaded it quick, Mike. And I'm not sure. Did you see anything about this, Mike, at all on the internet?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness.
So that's all I got.
Where was this at?
Halls, Tennessee, USA Pullers, I think, is the association.
I've heard of that association, and this was this past weekend.
Saturday night, I believe, is what I was told.
That is. That's one of those sites that makes every Pullings fan, makes your heart fall down into your gut. It reminds you of Fort Recovery with the Walshes, when they had their bad accident in the 90s or whenever that was. So fingers crossed and prayers is all I can say.
Yeah, I don't know anything else. No details, nothing.
Yep.
So, but that is what it is. So thanks for watching Let's Grow Pulling. We're here every Monday night, 7:30. You can listen later. iTunes, Spotify. Just type in Let's Grow Pulling. Mike Heidel is our host. I'm the co-host, and Kenzie is as well, but we gave her the night off. She just got home from Kentucky a couple hours ago. So full pull live again, Columbus, Texas, May 2nd and 3rd, Glencoe, Kentucky. Of course, the Pullers Championships, May 16th and 17th. Mike, love you, buddy. Have a good night.
Today.
Today.
Let's talk about today.
Grand national state level, you have to run non-sales, wholesale.
Is 9,000.
The only mistake I made, I didn't put her in a registration move with her.
Just this ever-evolving story.